Good evening, peace and blessings, everybody, on this Saturday evening. Hope everyone is well. Peace and blessings. Hope everyone is having a great weekend, a safe weekend, a prosperous weekend. This is the Eco Beloved reporting live on Eco Beloved Facebook page. If you have not liked the Eco Beloved Facebook page, head over to Facebook and like the Eco Beloved on Facebook. We're also streaming live on StreamYard on New Freedom Exchange as well. If you haven't liked New Freedom Exchange, head over to Facebook and YouTube and subscribe to New Freedom Exchange. And I'm also streaming live to my personal Facebook page as well. So good evening, everybody. Let me know where you're all tuning in from this evening. I'd like to recognize you all and thank you all for taking some time out this evening to tune in. We definitely appreciate you all for doing that this evening. So this evening wanted to focus our attention and briefly focus our attention and give some updates as it pertains to Major Hurricane Ida, who's in the Gulf of Mexico right now, taking aim to the Gulf Coast overnight tonight into tomorrow, with expected landfall sometime tomorrow and going into Monday time frame. This is a major hurricane. This is a very serious situation, life-threatening situation for the Gulf Coast. As we know, we're coming up on the 16th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina as well, which marks, again, the devastation that hit New Orleans and Louisiana and parts of Mississippi. These same areas will be affected by Hurricane Ida as it makes its approach towards the Gulf Coast. Now, there are evacuations that are underway as we speak. If you have not evacuated from the areas that are under mandatory evacuations, now is the time to do so. The storm is moving very fast, so we'll be here knocking on the doorstep quite soon. And you do want to give yourself time. There's been major traffic on Interstate 10, major traffic going east and going westbound on Interstate 10, trying to get people out of the low-lying areas that are under mandatory evacuations. Low-lying wards have been evacuated or have been asked to leave in parts of Louisiana now. Don't have much time to do that. We only have a couple hours or so before the eventual landfall, sometime on Sunday. So if you are under mandatory evacuations, please leave. If you're not under mandatory evacuations, but it has been asked that evacuations are not mandatory, but still strongly suggested, I would still leave. If you have a place to go, further east or further west from away the center of circulation, would advise that you will take that advice on evacuation. Please check on your loved ones. If you have any loved ones or friends in Louisiana and Mississippi this evening, please check on them. State of emergency has been issued by the state of Louisiana, and also in parts of, I believe, Mississippi has also issued a state of emergency as well. And the Louisiana governor, John Bel Edwards, declared a state of emergency for the state of Louisiana. And I'm pretty certain that Mississippi Governor Tate has issued a state of emergency as well. And I'm hearing Alabama as well has issued a state of emergency as well for those three states. 6 million residents are under some sort of a tropical alert advisory. 6 million people from Louisiana to Mississippi to Alabama this evening on this stretch of the Gulf Coast. So much to talk about. We have hospitals that are filled, have COVID patients in hospitals, and other people who are sick and battling illnesses and etc. are in the hospitals. So those people cannot be moved. They cannot be moved. So let us pray for them, for those who cannot leave these states because of some sort of illness or disease or whatever have you. They cannot leave. So let us pray that power outages and generators kick in and power, powers will probably go out, more than likely go out because of wind and rain and wind breaking down trees and things of that nature. But we just pray that it's not as bad, and it's ease throughout the situation, and that there's less of a way of damage and no fatalities from the storm system. And hopefully everyone heeds the signs this evening, heeds the warnings that have been placed out this evening, and takes this very serious. It's a very serious situation. And we're going to show some of the latest data and latest information to you all this evening. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to comment. Sister Hafiza Shamsuddin says we're praying live from Dallas, Texas. Yes, definitely keep the people along the Gulf Coast, our families and those loved ones along the Gulf Coast in your prayers. At this point of time, they certainly need it. So what we're going to do now is share a screen briefly to talk about the current report that's come out from the National Hurricane Center as of 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, current advisory. So let me refresh this. Let me refresh my pages, and let's get to it this evening. We didn't want to be brief as much as we can to deliver this message to you all. Let us do that. Okay, okay. So if everyone sees my screen, I'm going to scroll down here. There's a couple other places of eventual probably maybe concern, especially Tropical Depression 10, but that's way out here in the Atlantic Ocean, away from any of the islands. So our main focus right now is Hurricane Ida, Major Hurricane Ida. In fact, let me go back, put the cursor here. As of 10 p.m. Central Standard Time, we have a Category 2 hurricane, sustained winds of 105 miles per hour. Minimum central pressure is 964 millibars. That number is very important. That central pressure number is very important because that tells us how strong this hurricane is getting. And each report or update coming in, we notice that the central pressure for Hurricane Ida is dropping, which means that the storm is deepening, and it means that it's strengthening rather quickly. And as that was anticipated or forecasted, that this will eventually become a strong Category 3, if not a Category 4 hurricane upon landfall. A strong Category 3, a strong Category 4 hurricane upon landfall. This is in the major hurricane status. So we will discuss what that means in terms of potential damage and potential storm surge. There's a lot of factors going in tonight. There's going to be a lot of effects, not just for the Gulf Coast, not just for Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, but also stretching up further into the Tennessee River Valley, and then eventually the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, the leftovers of what's left of Hurricane Ida as it makes its landfall and makes its track further inland. Of course, the storm will weaken as it makes landfall and as it interacts with land, with the friction of landmass and thunderstorms, which will tend to break up these storms and rip them apart, essentially, due to the terrain. So, but still, the damage will be done in terms of the wide effects and the aftermath, the potential aftermath that's tied to systems like this and their strength. And also we'd like to say that the movement is northwest at 14 knots, that is 16 miles per hour. This moving storm system is moving rather quickly at 16 miles per hour. That is fast. That's why there wasn't much time in terms of prepping and getting out and traveling. It's not much time. You don't have much time. The window is getting smaller and smaller and smaller because as fast as this storm system is moving, we're going to start seeing some of the rain bands from the storm make its landfall before the actual landfall of the storm. The actual landfall of the storm is when the the center of circulation, or the eye, makes landfall, that constitutes a landfall. Not because it's raining and you're seeing rain. Those are the outer bands of the system. That does not count as a landfall. A landfall is when the center of circulation makes its first contact with land. That constitutes a landfall. So that is where current stats for Hurricane Ida in terms of the National Hurricane Center. Excuse me. Let us go to some key language here. We're going to click inside Hurricane Ida. It's going to take us to some key language or key messages from the National Hurricane Center as of 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. They read, number one, like we reiterated, we're going to have to reiterate again. There is a danger of life-threatening storm surge inundation. We're going to talk about the storm surge forecast and how much water is going to be pushed inland because of the wind direction, and the correlation between the wind direction and the high and low tide. This is what happened Sunday along the coast of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama within the storm surge warning area. Extremely life-threatening inundation of 9 feet or greater above ground level is possible somewhere within the area from Morgan City, Louisiana, to the coast of Mississippi. Overtopping of local levees outside of the hurricane storm damage risk reduction system is possible where local inundation values may be higher. Interest throughout the warning area should follow any advice given by local officials. And those who have been asked to leave mandatory evacuations, hopefully you all have heeded those warnings and have left by now or on the way out. Ida is expected to be an extremely dangerous major hurricane when it reaches the coast of Louisiana. Hurricane force winds are expected Sunday in portions of the hurricane warning area along the Louisiana coast, including the metropolitan area of New Orleans, with potentially catastrophic wind damage possible where the core of Ida moves onshore. Actions to protect life and property should be rushed to completion in the warning area. Number 3, damaging winds, especially in gusts, will spread inland near the track of the center of Ida across portions of southeastern Louisiana and southwestern Mississippi Sunday night and early Monday. These winds will likely lead to widespread tree damage and power outages. Ida is likely to produce heavy rainfall Sunday into Monday across the central Gulf Coast from southeast Louisiana, coastal Mississippi, and far southwest Alabama, resulting in considerable to life-threatening flash and urban flooding and significant river flooding impacts. As Ida moves inland, significant flooding impacts are possible across portions of the lower Mississippi River Valley, Tennessee, and Ohio valleys through Wednesday. Okay. So this is some of the key messaging from the National Hurricane Center. Just wanted to share that language to you all. And now let us talk a little bit about the other effects that's tied to Hurricane Ida. And if you have any questions, please feel free to stop me at any point. This is the US QPF on the measure of precipitation from Hurricane Ida, the amount of precipitation or amount of rain that is expected or forecasted. The darker reds, the darker pinks, going into darker purples indicates extremely heavy rainfall, and that includes the city of New Orleans and all of eastern Louisiana and southern Mississippi, and including southwestern Alabama, this Mobile, and along that Mississippi coast as well. In some areas, we'll pick up almost 10 inches of rain, and that includes 8 to 10 inches of rain, includes portions of the New Orleans metropolitan area and pockets of those darker purples areas, pockets of 15 inches of rain, with majority in this area, which is under red, at least receiving at least 10 inches of rain. And then those in the orange, at least six to possibly locally, even 10 inches of rain, even in these areas. So you get the picture that there will be flooding in the low-lying areas. Those areas that are prone to flooding will receive it. river flooding, rivers overflowing their banks. That's expected to happen. Those living near rivers, some rivers will overflow their banks because there's too much rain. It's just too much additional water, and they can only carry but so much in terms of capacity. And then when that happens, you get river flooding. So we have river flooding, we have other local flooding, and then eventually we have the other threat, which is the most dangerous threat to property and to land, and most importantly to human life, which is the storm surge. That's the dangerous situation that we are concerned about with Hurricane Ida, and that could topple levees or go over the levee system, or the hurricane risk system that's been fortified or built up by the Army Corps of Engineers in Louisiana, especially New Orleans, is that the understanding that New Orleans and the surrounding wards are below sea level already. New Orleans is in what they call a fishbowl type of situation. And a fishbowl, basically, you have a bunch of water poured into a fishbowl after a certain amount of time, or a certain amount of water going into a fishbowl. A fishbowl can only hold by a certain capacity of water. After you get so much water into a fishbowl, it tends to what? It's going to overflow. So this is places like New Orleans, but is already under the under sea level. So any push of water coming from the Gulf of Mexico and push of additional water coming from the Gulf of Mexico is going to cause flooding that way as well, and also potentially damage to the levee system, potentially. So let's talk about the peak storm surge that's expected. So where the center of circulation makes landfall, the closer you are to the hurricane itself, less to the left, to the west, less to even the east. So from Ocean Springs, Mississippi, to intra-coastal city of Louisiana, we're varying from an average of 4 to basically 15 feet of water. 10 to 15 feet along the mouth of the Mississippi River, along here, where my cursor is going to, and 7 to 11 feet here on this side of Louisiana, and including Lake Pontchartrain, 5 to 8 feet of water. This is New Orleans is somewhere around here. So you get the picture that the water will be coming in from the pushing in from the south, but also pushing in south of Mississippi, from the mouth of the Mississippi River. There will be water coming into the lower Louisiana, extreme coastal Louisiana, but there will also be water coming into from Lake Pontchartrain, but from the east. From the east, the water being pushed this eastward from the Gulf of Mexico coming into New Orleans. So water is going to be coming from potentially could be coming from different parts of Louisiana, especially along that southern coast. The concern is, again, 10 to 15 feet of water is no joke. That's taller than us. Average, person's 5 foot something. So you imagine 10 to 15 feet of water. Basically we're all basically submerged underneath water, and we could expect homes to be submerged underneath water as well. Those who live in these areas homes could potentially be submerged. You could potentially be looking at situations or imagery of homes underneath water, like literally up to the roofs and the chimneys, et cetera, because of this so much water coming in to the area. So that's a little bit of what to expect storm surge wise, peak storm surge wise. Again, as the hurricane makes its landfall, makes its approach. Right now, it's the quiet before the storm, as they say, but it's coming. And we're going to look at it, what it looks like in a minute. But we also want to talk about the arrival. Let's talk about the warnings and the cone. Let's pull this up. So this is the current track for Hurricane Ida. It's 10 o'clock. It's right here, it's sitting in this almost central Gulf, almost northern portion of the Gulf of Mexico. And by this time, overnight tonight, going into tomorrow morning, it's already knocking on the door of the southern Louisiana coast. So between the morning and mid-morning and early afternoon, we expect a landfall somewhere in the southern portion of Louisiana, the southeastern portion of the state of Louisiana, and then eventually coming on shore, making its approach to the eye, or the center of circulation right now is wobbling. It's moving back and forth. So the cone had to be adjusted slightly eastward to adjust to the fact that the storm is wobbling at this point. And with these storm systems, you do get a wobble. These storms do wobble. They don't move in a perfect track. There's no perfect way. These storms last minute, they wobble, move eastward or westward, and any change in a wobble, 30 miles, 60 miles east or west could mean a major difference in terms of major impacts. Right now, the storm is wobbling to the east. So this cone had to be adjusted to reflect that the storm system could potentially roll over the city of New Orleans. That means the eye wall going over the city of New Orleans itself. And where you get to the northern portion of the eye wall is where you get the heaviest of winds, the heaviest of rain, and that push of storm surge. Life-threatening situation. If you get into that eye wall, that's where it gets the worst of the storm system, is in that center circulation, northern fringe, this little northern portion of the eye wall is where you get the worst of the weather. The peak winds speed, we're talking 130, 140 mile per hour winds in that northern portion of the eye wall as it rolls over, going over inland. So just imagine that. And if you can imagine that, this, like I said, a life-threatening situation for this area, for this region. And as you see, by Monday morning, we have a tropical storm, a weaker system, and located out of Louisiana, more and so in Mississippi, and then eventually going to tropical depression status, going to Monday night into Tuesday morning, and then we'll just be dealing with heavy rain in this region from Mississippi, Arkansas, getting to Tennessee River Valley, and then eventually getting towards the Ohio River Valley, and then spreading rain into the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast later in the week. We'll have to deal with precipitation coming from Hurricane Ida, but what's left of it, obviously. The worst of it will be upon its arrival initially to Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, mainly Louisiana, southeastern Louisiana, and that coastal Mississippi areas to be watched. That red outline color is hurricane warnings, meaning that we're expecting hurricane-like conditions within the next 24 hours or less. It's wind speed 74 miles per hour plus, and the effects of that as it relates to wind, etc. And the blue outlying areas, that's Mississippi, southern Mississippi, and southeastern portion of the state of Alabama. And then these are tropical storm warnings, meaning that we'll get tropical storm-like conditions as winds less than 74 miles per hour, but still in a way to do some damage in and around the city, in and around those coastal cities, in terms of some damage there. But where we're anticipating the most heaviest of winds will be coming in the state of Louisiana, southern Louisiana, Morgan City, New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Hoonah, and just being clobbered, areas to be clobbered. All flights coming out of New Orleans are canceled tomorrow. There's no flights leaving or coming into Louisiana tomorrow. So if you haven't caught a plane ride out of town, now's the time to see if you can get one out of town. But if you're driving, now's the time to get on Interstate 10 or whatever interstate you need to get on to lead either northward, westward, or eastward out of the hurricane warning area. That is the advice that's being given, and should be heeded by those living in the region. Can the track change? When not leaving it out, the possibility of that happening. Anything can happen with these type of storm systems, and we're not in charge of where these systems go. We don't know how these systems go. We can only forecast where and deliver this information to you all, so everyone can be abreast of the situation. But we don't know. Tracks can change. Yes, a little wobble to the east, a little wobble to the west could mean someone could get less in the way of winds, and more people. Those other people will get more wind, more rain. It's one of those wobble situations. So we have to monitor it hour by hour, minute by minute with the radar, more or less. Computer models at this point it's in the short range, so we don't really use some of the major computer model forecasting computer models because they're out of range at this point and it doesn't make sense to use them. So we're now in the nowcasting state where everything is just radar and monitoring of the radar at this point. Out to sea is not an option. This storm system is in the Gulf of Mexico right now. It's no out to sea option. I'm sorry to say that it's a pretty much actual landfall is highly it's going to happen. An actual landfall will happen. Let's see here. Let's also get in some arrival of the wind, timing of the arrival of tropical storm force winds or more or greater is starting to come in to extreme southeastern portion of Louisiana. Dawn pretty much at Sunday at 2 a.m. And then gradually from 2 a.m., 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, basically between that 2 and 8 a.m. Time frame, everyone in this area from New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Mobile, everyone will be the Gulf Shores. Everyone will be experiencing at least tropical storm force winds, if not greater, especially again closer to the center of circulation, closer to the actual hurricane itself, witnessing tropical storm force winds / hurricane force winds will be happening upon arrival, and then eventually as the storm system gets more inland, eventually the state of Louisiana will get into more of the action in terms of wind, etc. Going to stop sharing this particular screen at this point, and I'm going to switch screens here so we can get some more data in. Okay, everyone see me now. I'm back on the screen just for a moment, and we're going to share another screen with you all so we can see a little bit of what the system looks like. Show you what the system looks like on the infrared satellite view. Maybe one moment, and we're going to share that screen. There we go. All right. Shout out to our good friends at Tropical Tidbits. This is an open source site. Our good friends at Tropical Tidbits allow people like myself and you all to access imagery like this, radars, satellites, forecast models, etc., at donations. So And that's all they ask for is a donation to keep the site running and to keep this information available to the public. What we're looking at right now is Hurricane Ida, actually. And this is an infrared satellite view, obviously, right now. We have to have infrared because it's the nighttime and we have lost the daytime sun. So satellites are not, since it's dark, it's night, you're not going to pick up. You're not going to be able to see the storm systems from the Earth, from that point of view. So you have to turn on the infrared function on the satellite in order to pick up, the storm system itself. I'd like to point out a couple of features about this particular system. And where we see these blossomings of this bubbling effect of these higher cloud tops, which is indicative of these darker reds and like these grays. You're seeing all of this thunderstorm development, like all this, how those high cloud tops, meaning the higher the cloud tops, the more instability that we're building in the atmosphere, this fuel of this, of a very warm Gulf of Mexico, it's just a ripe environment for a blossoming in terms of just thunderstorm development, which is how we get this symmetry here, this symmetrical look that we're looking at, this almost perfect symmetry of a hurricane at this point. As you see there, where my cursor is, right there is the center of circulation. That is the eye wall forming. We are forming an eye. And where we're forming an eye, that means the storm is deepening. And as that donut becomes more donut-like, more of a donut hole, it starts to become more formidable. That's meaning that we're seeing a deepening and strengthening storm system. Almost perfect symmetry. And remember I told you about those outer bands? These are the outer bands I was referring to. There's already outer bands coming in to southern Mississippi, parts of Alabama, and stretching even to the Panhandle, the western portion of the Panhandle of Florida, already with some of these outer rain bands. These are going to be outer rain bands coming in before the landfall. Right here, center circulation, still some miles away from making landfall in Louisiana. So, but you're still going to get thunderstorms, rain, lightning coming from in these outer bands coming inland as we speak throughout tonight and into tomorrow morning. And eventually we'll have a landfall. So we will have more in the way of rain and et cetera for pretty much everybody. Stop sharing screen. Again, that's the satellite infrared view of that. Any questions? Any questions? Stop right there. We'll pause for a quick second and allow any questions from the audience, from those who are listening. Appreciate you all for listening and tuning in this evening as we share the latest guidance of Hurricane Ida, which is expected to become a Category 3/Category 4 hurricane upon landfall in southeastern Louisiana, where current system is 145 miles southeast of the mouth of the Mississippi River. It's not that far away from making its landfall. It's steady getting there, and it's moving fast. It's northwest at 16 miles per hour. I want to just give another look here into what we mean by what we mean when we talk about the different levels of hurricane status as it relates to categories. I think that's important to go over so everyone can be clear about what we're looking at. I'm going to pull up the categories on the Saffir-Simpson scale. Here we go. And hopefully this will bring some clarity to those who may not be familiar with, heard that before. So allow me to share screen one more time again, and we'll discuss the different categories of hurricanes and how they're basically rated. Share screen. Let me get this one up here. Okay, I think this is it. Yes, here we go. Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. All hurricanes are measured by wind speed from category 1, which is winds of 74 to 95 miles per hour. Damage could be very dangerous. Winds will produce some damage. Where we're at right now, 105 miles per hour is Ida. So that's currently a strong category 2 hurricane, which is extremely dangerous winds, which will cause extensive damage. It is expected that we will get to category 4 status, which is winds of 130 to 156 miles per hour, which is catastrophic damage will occur at this point. At this point, between 3, 4, and 5, not saying 1 and 2, you won't get damage, but between 3, 4, and 5, they're talking about catastrophic damage. And we're talking about rainfall amounts approaching a foot in areas that are low-lying. So a lot of areas coupled with the rain, coupled with the storm surge, will become uninhabitable areas, especially those closer, low-lying areas, closer to those rivers, closer to that more below sea level situation. That is to be expected. The mayor of New Orleans has announced that those who are going to be still around to shelter in place at this point of time, where no one's going anywhere anytime soon. And not in these conditions, as the weather will start to deteriorate, is going to deteriorate very, very quickly and very fast. Okay. We have covered a lot this evening, and we ask that we all pray for our brothers and sisters, our people in Louisiana, Mississippi, especially Louisiana and Mississippi, along the coast, near to New Orleans and Baton Rouge, Morgan City, all these areas, to pray for those in the path of the Hurricane Ida tonight, that we don't lose people, we don't have fatalities. We just pray that no loss of life is happening or will happen. We keep the best construction on it, and we hope and pray for the best for those affected and those who will be affected by the storm system tonight, going to tomorrow, and we'll see what happens. We'll closely monitor the situation. Know that this is a very serious situation, life-threatening situation. Must be taken serious. And we hope that those who have been asked to leave, mandatory evacuations, have left already, or if not, you're in the process of leaving now, packing your things up and going east or westward or northward out of the hurricane warnings area, out of this path of the hurricane, so it could be safer and away from that, if you're able to. A lot of people are not able to because of health and a lot of other factors. Maybe they don't have places to go. Maybe they don't have family members or friends in other places that are close. And maybe they don't have cars. How do you get in and out? Cars. Maybe people don't drive. People don't take a plane out. There's a lot of other factors here, and we definitely want to keep in mind that as we, pray tonight, as we go to bed tonight, knowing that, we're blessed. Those who are not in paths of hurricanes and storms like this, that we're blessed. We all are blessed. And we want to keep that in mind, and we should be all grateful for that, and not lose focus on our gratitude to the Most High. I thank you all for tuning in, those who have tuned in, those who watched the replay. Thank you for those who will watch the replay. If you have comments, questions, please leave them in the comment section, and we will answer them at our best, with our best answers that we can provide. And hopefully tonight's discussion and analysis was helpful to you. And again, have a great rest of your Saturday evening, great rest of your weekend, the rest of your Sunday, peaceful Sunday. We will talk soon. Peace and blessings. Good night, everybody.